This is the Three Skeevers Podcast.
All right, episode 37 of the Three Skeevers podcast with Grim from Grim's Forge Gaming and myself, Icy, with Icy Fire Gaming. How you doing, Grim?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Well, that was a little different from the norm, but that's all right. So today we have Nephis QS in studio. How are you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have a special guest come every once in a while. It's pretty good. So, to start things off, as the last couple episodes, I've always been talking about companions, and they're so much fun. And I want to ask Nephis some companion stuff. So I don't know if you've been using them a lot, but do you think, because I'm finding when I'm trying to put together a companion build, or not even a companion build, but I've just defaulted mostly to running Quickened on everything. Are you finding that same problem as well, where Quickened seems to be like the best all-around trait, or are you finding like the other traits like Shattering or Augmented or whatever the whatever the remaining traits are you kind of varying between those, or what's your opinion on the whole trait system with the companions and stuff?
Quicken is definitely a strong trait, simply because that they actually do have cooldowns. I've tried out other combinations, like the one that gives you ultimate generation. I found that pretty great. Otherwise, for like straight up damage, I found the just damage done modifier traits to be as effective as Quicken, if not more, at times.
So, and for those pieces that are different from Quickened, are you just running it like on, say, jewelry and weapons, or what's kind of like your layout?
It's for the damage done modifier. I can't think of the trait stone at the top of my head. I think it's aggressive. Yeah, aggressive. That's on everything as much as possible. For the ultimate generation, prolific. Yeah, that's like on most pieces. I think too many. Putting in all the pieces is a bit too much for that trait.
Oh, okay. So I think it's six. So they got 7 armor pieces, 3 jewelry, and 1 weapon. So you're actually running a lot of, I guess, like, would you say like 5 and 4, or not 5 and 4, 11 pieces. So like 6 and 5 or something like that between
Yeah,
those
something like
traits.
that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. And no Quickened?
I've tried Quicken. It's okay. uh, yeah, it's good. I just haven't used it really on live. I've tested on PTS, but yeah, I prefer prolific overall for Miri and augmented for Bastion,
Interesting. Okay.
or
Yeah,
aggressive.
because
Sorry.
yeah. Because yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I used to play League of Legends back in the day, and with the Earth mode, Ultra Rapid Fire, where you have no resource cost and you have 80% cooldown reduction. I'm a big fan of being able to cast your abilities really fast or as often as you can. So I kind of like having them spam their abilities as often,
Right.
just to satisfy that urge, I think. But you guys want to talk about the combat preview first?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to note on air too. I said this off air, but doesn't Nephis have the most amazing voice ever?
I don't know about that one.
He really does. Made for radio for sure.
It is very deep. I'll say that.
And that's what people say all the time. I just don't hear
Okay, what do you
So,
got, Icy?
so instead of reading out the whole thing, I'm just gonna summarize it. But I guess we can just break it down paragraph by paragraph or whatever. But the first thing they talk about is the time to kill, and I guess my summary is they feel like the time to kill is too low because damage is so high and there's not enough defensive power for everybody. And then in response, they're giving everyone additional 10% more damage mitigation, so that battle spirit passive is going to go from 50% to 60%. How do you guys feel about that?
You can go first, Nephis.
Sure. I think I said this off air. That's definitely one of the at least 2 solutions I can think of in terms of increasing the TTK, or time to kill, is what they call it. and I like that they're doing this with Battle Spirit even more. I think in the recent few patches we've seen they started playing around with Battle Spirit a lot more than in the past. Whereas compared to the past, they would change a lot of things, and that would adversely affect either PvP or PvE. And I think just kind of doing this with Battle Spirit now is a better choice than say, oh, let's nerf this set or let's nerf CP across the board for PvP because that's the hard thing about ESO really, balancing PvP and PvE at the same time. It's almost an impossible task in my opinion. So I think overall positive change.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think it's a great use of the Battle Spirit passive that I think, and on a side note, and everybody knows this that listens regularly, that they should have probably balanced or scaled proc sets through the Battle Spirit passive as well. And in that moment, you don't, like you were saying, you don't affect the PvE community whatsoever. It's just a throttle on proc sets when you come into a PvP environment. But anyways, I love the way they use the Battle Spirit passive to do that. And at the end of the day, if it's not enough, they could just hop into the Battle Spirit passive and make it 15%, or make it another 20% on top
Right.
of that. And so it's great. I think that's smart. I really like the way that they're doing that. And time to kill damage is so high right now. So, and I think that we were just talking about this, but they need to address specific abilities. I just told them a story off air how I was a solo player and I got bombed in Cyrodiil by a bomber. And the initial explosion was a 20k hit, then there was a 9k sap essence, and then there was a it was like 29 and 9, and there was zero counterplay to it. And so I don't know that just a flat extra 10% damage mitigation is that's only going to take 2k off the 20k. I'm still going to be dead, so they need to probably look at that situation, maybe make it to where when you hit proc stat you can't actually go stealth. I don't know, that would break that whole meta altogether, but there's something there. Or take away the 300 weapon damage coming from stealth from the shadows, or make it to where they can't hit their vampire seething fury or something to that effect. I don't know, but yeah, I love it. I'm for it. What's your thoughts, Icy?
So, in terms of bombing, I guess I mostly play PvP supports and things like that, so I'm always on the defensive anyway. But in terms of the Nightblade bombing thing you were just talking about, should there be, because it's a bomb, right? Like you're getting nuked from 100 to 0. Should you be able to just drop almost instantly, or what's the appropriate counterplay for something like that? Is it just like the visual, the missile that you see on its way about to hit you, and if it hits you, then you blow up? Like what I guess what would the counterplay look like in an ideal ESO world
I
for
don't
a
know.
Nightblade bomber?
Maybe something that's built into the Battle Spirit passive, that if you drop 90% of your health within 0.2 seconds, that something in the soul tree or the soul magic lines, as long as you have a passive, something that saves your soul. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that their true intent is to have something in the game that has zero counterplay in a PvP realm. Because if you go to Imperial City districts pre Mid-Year Mayhem, there are literally 20-man groups of Nightblades running around because there's damage is so high and there's zero counterplay. They're nuking people straight from stealth and then gone, right? And so I don't know that they want to steer the next generation, not Gen X, but whatever the next generation of new coming PvPers towards Nightblades, just because there's zero counterplay and it's a fun class to play and kill people and never die or whatever. So I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. What about you, Nephis?
Going back to what you said earlier about perhaps looking at the damage toolkit of a bomber, and I this is kind of what I was referring to with one of the other solutions I brought up that I would do personally. A lot of people have pointed to the item set mechanical acuity as a problem,
Mhm.
which enables bombers to guarantee crit damage on groups. But personally, I don't think mechanical acuity is a problem. It's just kind of the mechanism to carry out the bombing. I think what's an issue for sure, as you mentioned, is gonna be proximity detonation, and I don't know if you remember back in the old days where everybody ran proxy. Even in 1v1s, people
Yeah.
ran proxy. I think we kind of approached that point again with this skill, especially after the fact they uncapped it. So for sure, I would say they probably need to look at proxy first and foremost, along with looking at maybe, as we maybe mentioned, a couple other things that are related to stealth, like the weapon damage or weapon and spell damage from stealth. But yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise, in terms of counterplay against bombers, I'd say yeah, you're mostly correct, and you can't really counterplay against it, right? I think the only counterplay you can do is always anticipate it, and I've noticed that kind of helped me a lot during this past mid-year. Just always thinking, okay, I'm here on this flag, or there's a group over there. There's probably a bomber, and 9 times out of 10, I was always right, and
Yeah.
I would live. But that's not really counterplay. I think that's just kind of like, I don't know.
Right place, right time.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's interesting, the whole thing. If you think back 2, 3 patches ago, I 90% of my time is spent PvPing. The other 10% is just getting the gear to PvP for new builds. But it used to be, if you're fighting somebody and you got a good 1v1 going, or you've just first initiate a fight with somebody and they fire up Proxdet, you laugh and you're like, really? You're gonna bomb me? Oh no. Because it just didn't carry the pop,
Right.
that it does now. Now when you're fighting somebody and they fire up Proxdet, you're like, get away from me. Like, I gotta get out of here. So it's funny how the things have changed with Proxdet.
Yeah, and I think the whole thing with proxy has always been kind of complicated. I definitely don't think it should be something capable of solo bombing someone, just one person. I think
Yeah.
it should still be used against larger groups.
Yeah.
But then we have this history of when, ZOS tries to implement things like this, it's usually the larger groups that end up utilizing these skills that are supposed to bust the Zergs or potentially ball groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tricky one, and I'm kind of curious if they're going to do anything with the skill potentially in update 31.
Yeah, they have other things that do checks to see how many other people in your group or have, like, let's take
Ring of
the
the Pale Order.
Pale Order.
Right.
Yeah, so for every person in your group, Pale Order takes a negative 4% to the healing received. Proxdet should operate in that same fashion because Icy and I were running around. I think we only had like a 4-man group. We were just seeing what we could handle as 4-man group with damage being as high, or 5-man group with damage being as high as it is. And there was a group, an EP Fisherman's Guild. Do you remember that group, Icy? They're in the
Oh, I
video
know that
too.
group. I know that group.
and every one of them is ultra tanky and ultra healy, right? They're all running like healing builds, but they're all running Proxdet, and all they do is wait until they're ultra ready, and they'd all hit procs, and then they'd just run out into a group, blow them up, and then they'd run back into a building, build ult, and go. And it was super successful. Like, just in my video clips I got of me swimming in their group until they fire up Proxdet and me fighting them, or us fighting them, like, they were taking bodies home, with that play style. So I think that Proxdet should probably function a little bit like Pale Order, right? Like, for every person in your group, as soon as they get that buff, it's not a plus 25% per target. It starts taking a negative effect, minus 4%. So if you want to be a solo bomber and kill those groups, yes, you can do that. You have all the damage available to you. But if you're a large group using those abilities, no, you can't. So
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. I wonder if they can do that with skills, though, considering Ring of the Pale Order. It's kind of unique. I don't think they've ever really done that with a set ever before.
Yeah, that's what I thought too when I saw that. I was like,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool
Yeah.
they can do that now, or maybe not now, or maybe they've always been able to do it. Not sure.
Yeah. Do we even know if it's
So,
working?
well, it's definitely working. It's definitely working.
Right. I don't know. So that's my kind of thoughts on that, like the no counterplay with the bombing situation right now. And
Mm.
I like the way that they use the Battle Spirit passive for sure.
Oh yeah.
What else
Awesome.
you got?
So the next thing that they talked about in that combat preview was the stealth with all the. I think we all know like there's a lot of inconsistencies around stealth, and it looks like they're finally going to be addressing it by standardizing things like what should and should not break you out of it. What do you guys think about that? I mean, for me personally, I just like the, I just like the fact that they are putting structure around things that should have kind of already been there, where okay, these are the things that break it out, these are the things that do not. All that standardization, I'm all for it, love it. And I think maybe that's just the engineer in me, but what do you guys think about that?
I think the whole thing with standardization recently, since I think 2019, it's great. I feel like the focus of the combat team sort of shifted drastically when Roble was, I think, still the combat lead developer, and now I believe Brian Wheeler is now the combat lead. And the fact that they're standardizing everything like this, it's pretty nice. I know a lot of players don't like it, but you gotta have some sort of, I feel like, base foundation, a consistent foundation to kind of like start building on top of it, and things like class changes or even potential new skill lines or potentially new classes. For stealth, I think this is great. The only worry I have, I think, and they talk about it, is also the counterplay against stealth. So I'm just kind of curious how this is all gonna pan out.
Yeah, I wish they gave some examples because I know they said, you know, I guess they were kind of generalizing with like say direct damage attacks and stuff like that, but I wish they kind of just listed some abilities, for example, so we could all really understand. Because I know since they changed the CP system, I think there are a lot of places out there that maybe like ESO skill book. I'm not even sure if that place is updated yet, but they would say they would say we'll put wall of elements, right, and then it'll tell you, hey, these are the champion skills that actually buff this ability. These are the
Hmm.
things that do not. So I wish they kind of had that in game so that we would know, hey, this is a direct damage attack, or this would benefit from your thing, that type of
Mm.
stuff.
Yeah, they can definitely do better with things like that. With, th- there's always been so much information missing from the base game. It's kind of bad, especially for console players without add-ons, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Even with the old CP, or what they call CP 1.0, like how can you know that there were jump points? People have to test all this. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely agree with you that they should have more info in the game.
and I feel like they're getting there too, but
Oh yeah,
yes, baby steps, baby steps.
yep.
Uh, what do you think, Grim, for stealth?
Um, I think it's interesting. So before, the way Cloak was working was if you hit Cloak and you had dots on you, it suppressed the damage altogether. Night Blades, for the most part, don't have the strongest healing kit. Stand Blades don't have the strongest healing kit in most cases. They're usually going to run Vigor and they're going to run Rally. And then if they can hit Siphoning Strikes, but requires them to do damage, right? Light or heavy attacks for some healing. So it's only going to be Vigor or Rally. And both of those are Rally might be an option from stealth, and it won't break them out of stealth to get some health in. But what I think will happen is you're going to be able to dot down Night Blades. They're not suppressing that damage whatsoever now when they go into stealth. They're still eating it. And so it used to be before that we have to keep this Nightblade from getting back into stealth, keep him exposed so we can kill him. Now it's going to be the first opener might be a stun on them or something, but make sure you get your dots on them so there's pressure on them even when they cloak. And So that might be a real problem for them. If I think about me playing as a Nightblade and I get 4 or 5 dots on me before I could suppress it altogether, now I'm not going to be able to, and I'm eating that damage the longer I'm taking to reposition and restart the fight or whatever. So that might be a thing. I definitely think they need to revisit Evil Hunter and the abilities to pull Nightblades out of stealth. Like Flare, I feel like Flare has it's really wonky and goofy to use, but it has a larger radius. I wish that Evil Hunter and all the ways to pull people out of stealth had a range of, say, Caltrops, that same range. If
Mm.
you were to, make that type of range on exposing people from stealth, that would help out immensely. Because you even said it in your last video that you basically got to be standing on top of a Nightblade to use Evil Hunter or Camo Hunter to pull
Yeah.
them out of stealth. And then there's even no guarantee, So,
Right.
yeah.
So honestly, I think Caltrops would be a little bit too much, but I think Radiant Mage Light is the perfect range on an ability that can reveal stealth units. So if we just bump up Camo Hunter from 2 meters to 6 meters, same as Radiant Mage Light, I think we'd be good to go.
Yeah, because you do find a lot of Nightblades with your Radiant Mage Light.
Oh yeah, 10. I don't want to say 10 times out of 10, but whenever somebody steals in front of me, I just switch to my back bar, hit Mage Light, and then I can find the guy in the next like second or two, and we're good.
Yeah. Just in
But
time for the bomb to go off.
yeah, right.
We're like, oh, there he is, dead.
Yeah, I reveal him. I'm like, oh, sorry, you were busy doing something. No, go ahead. I'll just hold block and go over here.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? I know that that you talked about that in your video. So
In regards to revealing skills,
yeah.
oh yeah, I agree with you. I think they should definitely make some of these skills a bit more consistent. Like as you said, Expert Hunter. Like it's just really annoying when you're chasing someone. You're right on top of them and you cast it, but you waste stam and they're not there. Or they are
Yeah.
there, but you can't reveal them. I'm actually kind of curious about what you said earlier with the suppression of dots versus not suppression of dots in Cloak as a Nightblade. Isn't that kind of like I guess, I
Core
suppose,
mechanic
well,
of them.
right. Well, I guess isn't that sort of a kind of counterplay mechanism against like gankers or bombers? Really, the fact that they can't, like, they trade off so much survivability right now, as is they do
Yeah.
all divine, shadow, mundus. They're really squishy, but they can still get away in Cloak even with dots on them. Isn't that kind of a good thing? That, in your opinion, maybe not.
Mhm. Yeah.
That they can't suppress dots.
Yeah, if you're putting yourself in the Nightblade position, think of the difficulties you're going to have now that you have to eat that dot damage. There is no suppressing it, and now you have to reassess your healing kit, and your healing kit's not really set up to heal, the way
Right.
a Stam Crow is. And so I think it's going to be problematic. And so when you're looking at the two sides of the coin, Nightblades won't like that. And if they haven't thought about that yet, the second they start experiencing it, they're going to say, this is crap. Like, I'm taking so much dot damage and there's nothing I can do. One of my heals will pull me out of stealth, which is Vigor. And the other one is pretty darn expensive, Rally. So, and Rally's not going to get it done if you've got, a Stam DK that just put Venomous Claw on you and Noxious Breath. So just those 2 dots are going to be an immense amount of pressure. So
Do you think this will maybe push players to go with the other morph more, Shadow Cloak or Dark Cloak?
yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
yeah.
yep.
I think that's already a very strong option for
Yeah.
Stam Blades.
I think they need to adjust the scaling on Dark Cloak, because I actually am running Dark Cloak on Black Panther. I've run it on Ronin. I've run it on a handful of my builds. And even at 30k health, the tooltip or the actual heal that is coming in is significantly less than Vigor. It is by far the subpar healing option for me. And so they would almost need to double the heal on it to make it viable on those type of builds. And I'm probably at 5k 6k weapon damage on those guys, you know. So I know that weapon damage scale doesn't come into play with that because that heal is based off max health. So I don't know. It feels like a subpar heal for sure, though. I can say that they need to increase it.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that play style too. That's what I was aiming for on Black Panther was using Dark Cloak over, shadowy disguise. So
Like a sort of brawler, more brawler kind of build, rather than
yeah,
sneaky build. Yeah.
yeah,
I think I've been seeing a lot more of those recently. And they're running like 36,000 health, which is kind
yeah,
of, and they still have so much damage. It's kind of insane.
yeah. I have a build actually. I'm going to be doing a video on it. This is tidbit here, but it's
Mhm.
36. You could have 40k health, no problem, and it has 8k weapon
Jeez.
damage. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Oh, was that the build that you're supposed to keep a secret and not tell anybody?
That's the build. That's the build that I'm supposed to keep secret, and not tell anybody. Yeah.
Oh,
Whoops.
Yeah. So I didn't
yeah,
say when we're releasing the video.
yeah, 2021.
2022.
Oh, 2022. Yeah, my bad. Cool. All right, so the next thing they were talking about, so this is probably more for Nephis, not so much Ugrim, because I think it's more of a PvE type thing. But the
Mhm.
prismatic enchant changes. So I think with the prismatic theme of being, you know, stamina, magicka, and health. With the defense glyph, we get max stats for the armor, and for the jewelry, we get recoveries. So what they're going to do now is change the weapon glyph for that to restore magicka, stamina, and health to
Right.
your resources, which sounds pretty cool. But I think right now it's called Prismatic Onslaught, which will give
Mhm.
you bonus damage to Undead and Daedra. And I think when I do PvE content, I'm in like a very optimized group and stuff. So my guys, they will change out, like if we're coming across like a harvester boss or whatever, they
Right.
will swap out their current weapon to the same weapon but with the enchant on it, just for that top tier extra DPS optimization. So I feel like that type of change is only going to affect the 1% of the 1% players who actually care about this stuff. But I do like the change that they're doing. But my question to you is, do you think they should reintroduce like a new potency rune or whatever type of rune it is that will still give us that onslaught enchant?
Ooh. Okay. Well, that's a pretty loaded question. Well,
because because if they go through with this change, then what's the replacement for that? Right? I think it's
right.
just
There's
gonna remove
no
it.
real replacement. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Oh, that was it. Yeah. So,
Oh,
what
okay.
are your thoughts?
Well, I'm gonna try to break this down as quickly as I can. So,
Hey, we got plenty of time, man.
oh,
Take as
okay,
long as
okay,
you
okay,
need.
okay. So the prismatic onslaught change, they are changing it. And they cited it here, I believe, because of performance issues. I think they said that it was constantly like checking itself against like massive lists, sort of like how when they did the global cooldown test in Cyrodiil, like how certain skills check for a lot of things, like who's near you, how many people are near you, stuff like that. So, in terms of like for performance fix or something like that, I agree with it. I mean, it sucks, like you said, for people who optimized for damage in trials or even dungeons. I wouldn't say it's just like 1% or 1%. I'd say a lot of people, a lot of groups do it on Rakat. They do it in Rockgrove, the new trial. They do it in Kind's Aegis. They do it in Ethereum Archive, Hell Ra, and a few other four-man content. I don't, of course, no one likes it. I think this is probably going to be the most unpopular change with Update 31, or at least with the combat preview. I don't like the other alternative, which is Try Resource. I see that more as a more PvP option or maybe a tank option, but I don't think one-handed prismatic resource enchants will really be a thing. It has to be a the two-handed weapon to get the most out of it. I can say this. I actually asked Finn, the lead instance, the encounter designer or PVE designer, combat dev, or not combat dev, PVE dev about this because my only worry about this is, like you said, there's no replacement for it. It's not an insignificant source of damage for a lot of groups, especially for the new trial right now, Rocker, which more than 50% of it is Daedric. And I asked him, you know, this is fine, I guess, but like, will there be adjustments made to Rockgrove or Kind's Aegis in terms of like boss health or mechanic adds, stuff like that? Because I'm sure they probably took Prismatic Onslaught into account when they made those values. And his answer was, we'll just basically monitor it for now.
I love those responses. Yeah.
I mean, well, that's fair, I guess. Like, will groups have enough damage to get the speed run or the trifecta, stuff like that in the content? For Kind's Aegis, I don't think it'll matter. It's a pretty fast trial. For Rockgrove, it might matter. So we'll see. That's the only worry I have, though. In regards to Prismatic Onslaught, there's a pro. You kind of mentioned it in passing. The only pro here is people will not swap weapons as much as before. Right now, you have PvE DPS or Magic. Let's say just Magic DPS. They have 3 Maelstrom staves right now. They have 1 for trash, like Berserker enchant or Cleave. They have 1 with poison or fire for single target. That's not Daedric, and they have 1 with prismatic. So in terms of like inventory issue, or maybe like like swapping inventory or gear, that's a pro, which that's pretty much it. That's the only silver lining I can see.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on this.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Grim.
How many trials currently can be, if you carry enough DPS, you bring enough heat, how many trials currently can you bypass mechanics, key mechanics, if you've got enough damage, would you say?
Oh boy. All of them.
Okay. So
kind of. Yeah, all of them except maybe some parts of Rock Roof. That's about it.
Yeah, so this kind of changes that a little bit. I don't know that it's
Kind
is
of.
is it so much damage that it's, lost, that it's going to prevent people from hitting that threshold, whatever that tipping point is, where you can avoid certain mechanics? Or should that not even be in the game? You shouldn't be able to avoid trial mechanics.
Oh man, that's a huge discussion.
Yeah.
Oh,
Keep
so
in mind, I'm a dumb PvPer, so I'm asking something. I've done probably 10 trials total since the game's launched, and they're fun, but in more than half of them, we were able to bypass the mechanics, and I was like, dang it, I wanted to see what this was all about, so
yeah.
So real quick, before you go, Nephis, I will say, Grim, that I think I guess just thinking about it logically, when they design levels and things like that, I think they're just kind of basing it around the normal player, that type of thing, who can just average this amount of DPS. But I think what they don't account for, or I mean, which would be kind of impossible, is that people will actually improve and get better and then discover things in the game that you never even thought of, or you can even do yourself as like a developer, with like trying to like even trying to achieve things like 100k DPS, whatever, or light attacking to such a high level that you can hit those really high numbers. And then because you're hitting those numbers as a group, now you're skipping things that were inconceivable.
yeah.
So, and then I guess the question is now, how much of the player base is actually at that level, and then should we adjust the game because that is now the new standard, where everyone is
Yeah.
just so good at the game, we're going to have to just start buffing these dungeons because people are just going or getting through them too quickly.
We should, yeah, you have to account for the power creep at this point, because we're there, right? We're at, who knows, like at one point, whatever the highest DPS people were doing, 15k, think way back with before champion points. You know, people were doing what 20k, 30k, and 100k was unimaginable, and now we're exceeding 120k. Some people, Skinny Cheeks has builds out with for that. So
I
do you
remember when we were
go?
doing. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I remember when we were doing 1.5k back in the day, and we were so proud of it. We were so proud of it. And then, the next patch, someone hit 5k. And oh man, how do you hit 5k?
Oh,
And then a few patches after that, 15k, 20k, 30k, just kept going and going.
Right. So that changes the way. That should change the way the PvE trials team looks at it. We have to put in brake pumps or something that throttles that, hey, if you want to carry that much speed, you're just going to overlap these mechanics,
Mm.
and
Well,
it becomes near impossible.
I will say, because dude, for my particular four-man group, we hate that so much because I think in Moongrave Fane, right, for that gargoyle boss that
Yes,
does the
yes.
ground pound, or I think he just goes invisible, or he turns to a statue and then the lava thing comes up. We hate that so much because it forces us to have to just wait through the mechanic
Mhm.
and then do the thing, and then maybe we'll do like 2 light attacks, and then he goes back into the thing again, and we have to wait another 10-15 seconds. Like those throttles. Well, I think it comes down. Let me just summarize this. Why are we being punished for taking the time to practice, get really good at the game? Why should we be punished because of that?
Yeah,
That
that's definitely a valid perspective. It's like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's just my summary of it. Yeah, because
No, go on. Sorry.
oh, I mean, I think because when you take the time to do the target dummy to
Right.
really optimize and really hone in on your skills, you should be rewarded. And in some cases, being able to clear the first boss in what's that freaking Moonhunter Keep in 10 seconds, that's a huge accomplishment because you
Mhm.
bypass all the mechanics, being able to kill that guy so quick. Otherwise, it's kind of a pain in the butt, But I don't know why we would need to be punished with things like that are throttled because I think majority of the player base, the people who can't hit those numbers, they just do the mechanics and then they're fine. But I don't see why we need to be throttled in that capacity.
I think this everything we talked about so far is it's an incredibly complex matter, and it takes we have to take into account a lot of things when we talk about this stuff, like where most of the players at. For example, like the reason why they kept nerfing White Gold Tower in Imperial City Prison.
Hmm.
I think they nerfed it 4 times now at this point. Is because most players couldn't complete it.
Yeah.
For matters regarding DPS checks or mechanics that force you to play them, I think that's sort of like things like that, like what you mentioned with Moongrave Fang, the Gargoyle, like Lair Marslock's also one with a lot of the bosses, Moonlighter Keep. I think that's sort of a reflection of kind of the dev team, kind of their internal struggle to kind of address these issues. I don't think they have an actual answer, except, hey, maybe we can just stop them from DPSing. I don't think it's really. I don't think they view it as punishment. I think they're trying to understand an idea of how they can make, I guess, the content like how they want people to play it is my guess. And this also kind of gets into the topic of why are people doing 3 DPS and 1 tank for content, right? So, and this also gets into the healing role, like, and the nature of the damage in PvE content. What is it? Is it like how do you make PvE content hard? And the answer up until I think Stonethorn DLC was one shots, right? But this also created the problem of if you have one shots, why do you need a healer?
Mhm.
And I think they're answer, and I think was the right answer, was to make mechanics that definitely made you think about bringing a healer, like Stoneguard and Hardmoon. There's a insane damage over time effect on the tank that you would definitely need a healer for most groups. Moongrave Fane Hardmoon, there's healing checks that you would need for most groups. So I think that direction is great. As far as also the nature of content, it's also a very complicated issue in this whole matter. Like the Craglorn trials or the older dungeons, even the older DLC dungeons, and older content in general. Not sure what to say about the whole skipping the mechanics thing, because they are old content, and buffing the content is both good and bad, I guess.
Because there's still going to be people, it's their first experience with it.
Right, that's the bad part.
That's the bad part.
Right, that's the bad part.
So it has to be stair step. It only is viewed, Icy talked about, I don't know why we should be punished. I think you're only viewing as being punished when you have it right now. You have it all right now, and I'm having something taken away from me, and that's the ability to get through that content quick, because
Right.
we deserve that. We've got to that point where we can do that type of DPS, and if you change the mechanics and take that option away from us, then we're having it taken away. So, but that was one of my observations. Like I said, I'm a dumb PvPer out there doing PvE, doing trials, and some of my experiences in these trials, we just smoke through it so fast, and I know it's not because of me. I'm out there doing in my PvP gear, doing my 25k, 30k DPS, like look at me go, and not at the time not even realizing that other people are doing 80 to 120k DPS,
Right.
and so I don't know, just a question, not trying to take anything away from anyone. So
That was a bad thing, right? But the good thing, the good thing about potentially buffing content, which I don't know if they would do, because they are really, judging from their past actions, they are really always worried about the clear rate. Whether it's dungeons or trials, they want people to clear. They want people to play the content. But at the same time, it's kind of created, in my opinion, maybe my colleagues will disagree with me, but this environment in at least the raiding scene where a lot of players just don't know how to play the mechanics when it comes to it, right? Even I'm part of that, because when I go into dungeons with friends or whatever, we skip all the mechanics. When I go in there with people I don't know or just pugs, I'm like, this is a mechanic? I've never seen this before. I think the best example was when I did that Harrowstorm DLC, Castle Dorn on Vet with Gina and Personality and Jessica on the ESO livestream a year ago. And I, like, the night before that stream, I did it for the first time with a group of friends. And when I did it the next day on ESO Live, I was like, I didn't know what to, like, they wanted me to like tell them what was going on. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on, because the damage difference is different. So that was also my first time kind of seeing the content. So I think there is a problem for sure with the nature of skipping mechanics.
Yeah. What? So for the in Castlethorn, is it the? I think it's the second boss that's kind of like in the pool area at the bottom.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
is
could
that the
just
one that
burn
you're?
them.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Every boss I found, I saw a new, or at least 2-3 new mechanics that I would never have seen with.
Okay. Yeah,
you know,
because when my group, we did the trifecta back in, I think, like October 2020, and just like you're saying, we're smoking through everything, and then 4 months later, a different group of guys were like, "Hey, you mind helping us?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then I'm dying to things I've never seen before, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna come up here and like tank the boss." I'm like, "Why? Just stand in the pool area and just kill him when he spawns." And they're like, "What?" So then I bring them down there, because that's how I've always done it. They've never done it, and then we all get smoked. I'm
Wipe.
like, I don't
Yeah.
know what's going on now. I'll just do it your way, So
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting, the
Yeah.
different perspectives. But
I had that exact same experience with that boss that's down in the blood pool, the vampire that flies, and I was on the EU server trying to farm some gear, and everybody went down into the pool. Well, we were struggling on clearing trash mobs. Like I don't know what makes them think that we're going to be able to burn that boss. So they just all went down there and died. And then I'm, doing my Rambo, dodging, ducking and diving and getting down, rezzing somebody, and then, still dodging, ducking and diving while they're rezzing the group and we turn it around, but I'm just like it was an absolute nightmare. So but something that I think everyone should experience too,
I agree.
oh yeah, and I think that's all part of the natural process, right? When people join the game, they'll go through all the dungeons, experience all the mechanics. And I remember when I first joined, the hardest dungeon that I've ever came across was Depths of Malatar. We couldn't even get past the first boss. And I was like, man, this thing's freaking impossible. And then I think maybe a month or 2 months later, then I met you, Grim, and then several months after that, you're like, hey, I need to get some scavenging demise. You want to come with me? I'm like, dude, I'm like, I never beat this dungeon. This dungeon's impossible. And we were doing it on normal, by the way. So then me and you, we go in there too, man. And you're like, oh yeah, just do this. Da 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 da. We're done. We beat the whole dungeon in like 30 minutes or whatever. No problem.
yeah,
I'm like, bro, I couldn't even beat this with 4 people like regular.
right,
So, oh
yeah.
man. But that was me back in the day when I was a Red Guard a Red Guard Magplar, and my main heal was Breath of Life spamming, and I had Sword and Board, and I don't even know what. So, granted, I didn't know what I was doing at the time. So, but it's all part of the learning process. So,
Yeah, me neither. I didn't know. I was just like, yep, we got this.
yeah. So we're still doing the combat preview.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
40 minutes later. So
right.
the next thing they were talking about was addressing item sets that had record low engagement.
hmm
And I'll go through a couple of the sets here, and then we'll talk about them. Sithis Touch. When you use Blade of Woe, you gain Major Berserk for 20 seconds. 20 seconds, which increases your damage done. The direction they want to go in with that is focus on zipping around from successful battles quickly, one after another. Then you got the Nicholas Heavy Armor. When you block a spell projectile, you have 25% chance to reflect it back to the enemy, and they want to go towards improve the ability to shrug off incoming attacks. And then you have Crusader, which increases the duration of your dodge window by 0.3 seconds. And they wrote, we want something more appropriate of an enabling bruiser. And the last one was Perennial's Aptitude. Well, we'll say Perennials for later. But for Sithis, Nicholas, and Crusader, which I think were just 3 examples of some sets that they wanted to um, redesign. What do you guys think about those sets?
Well, as they are now, or
With the
what?
vague description of where they want to go with it.
Oh, well, I actually know what what they
Oh.
yeah, but I can't say.
Oh.
But
Okay, so we can only speculate.
well, yeah. I don't know. What would you speculate, Grim?
So yeah,
I'm
Grim.
Right.
sad because I use Crusader on my Mandalorian build, and I really like that. Like I was using an armor set that not a lot of people are aware of. They didn't realize that. It basically doubles the dodge roll window. And so I show them, in the build, like, here's what it looks like. It illuminates a little bit, and here's video, tons of video proof, battlegrounds and whatever of
Right.
how it works. And people are like, holy crap, I didn't realize it worked that way. And so, like, I was steering small groups of people that had seen my videos to it, really small, like 2 or 3 people. But
Yeah, me being one of them.
yeah, so I like Crusader where it's at, and I can still hit over 7k weapon damage on my Stamina Nightblade, but I also have that extra dodge roll window. So it was working out really well. It allowed me to brawl or box a little bit better with people. But things change. All things change or all things come to an end. So whatever direction they go, I'll just assess if that's the new Mandalorian build or if we got to change it up. So I don't know.
Nice. So with Sithis Touch, the way it is now, how exactly does that work? So if you're wearing the set and you also have like the Blade of Woe equipped, I've never done any of the Dark Brotherhood content, so I don't even know.
So
Is the Blade of Woe like it's kind of like is it like a master weapon or kind of like a mythic or whatever?
no, it's just a
Summon.
passive.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
It's
a
like a Dark
passive.
Brotherhood. Yeah, it's a Dark Brotherhood guild passive, and you can use it on innocent NPCs.
It's
Okay.
kind of like
yeah.
feeding as a vampire, right? Except you
Yeah.
don't go
yeah.
up or down. It's just if you're in position, you can activate the Blade of Woe and assassinate someone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess with Sithis Touch, is it mostly just for? I guess I'm still kind of a little bit confused.
Probably
So
to
just
help
when you
people do their Gaze of Sithis, right?
yeah. I mean, as it is right now, I think it's a super bad set. Like, it doesn't make sense. How are you gonna use the Blade of Woe during combat to get that
Right.
major berserk? I mean, it. I don't know if you guys know this, but I think I'm checking it right now. Even Fextra Life, under ESO like tooltip for this, they say the value of the set is worthless.
Oh my god.
So when Fextra says it's worthless,
It's probably
garbage.
worthless.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's worth deconning. That's it.
Damn. Okay. Well, I guess that settles that.
oh yeah.
Grim, what do you think about the Nicholas heavy armor? Like, what do you think improve the ability to shrug off incoming attacks? To me, that
Oh.
kind of sounds like the Meridia's blessed armor. That when you block an attack, you get you get a 5 seconds of dodging all attacks. I feel like it sounds like something like that.
Yeah, or if they just make it, God, you know how broken it would be if they made it for both ranged and melee, right? The 25%.
Oh, to reflect it back to an enemy.
Yeah, that'd be pretty broken.
But I know with ESO they like to be very particular with their wording, and they specifically say improve the ability to shrug off incoming attacks.
So it increases your resistances, just makes you more durable, you think?
I mean, not something like Iron Blood, right, where you get that 33% damage mitigation, but I feel like it'd be like a child trying to punch like a giant or something like.
Do you notice how quiet Nephis is right now? He's just smiling on the other end, saying he's thinking to himself, "Getting warmer, or you're way cold."
Yeah, we don't want to
Oh.
get you in trouble, so you can.
I'm just vibing over here.
Okay, yeah, just vibing. Good, cool. Okay, so I guess that'll cover that. So the last set that they also mentioned was, I think they're gonna, whatever. Pelennial's aptitude. Your spell and weapon damage become the higher of the two values. So if your weapon damage was higher, then your spell damage will be equal to your weapon damage. They want to change this to Pelennial's Wrath, which now focuses on the bloodlust this hero of lore succumbed to in their legacy left in Tamriel. So when I read that, I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. So I actually went to Fudge Muppet's channel and typed in Pelennial to see, what's the backstory behind this. And one of the examples that they spoke about was, I equate it to, I think that movie Troy with Brad Pitt playing Achilles, and his cousin pretended to be him and got killed in the battle, and then Achilles went to find Hector and then challenged him and killed him. But for Pelennial, when the person that he cared about, because he trained them from the beginning, and then once that person died, he just went on a rampaging spree and was killing all elves known to existence at that time, and several towns over. And then that was just one of the blood the bloodbaths that he was known for. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But that's just some lore for anybody who was interested. I would go check it out on Fudge Muppet's channel. But Grim, what do you think the Pelennial's Wrath is going to be now?
Nephis did a good job talking on his last video, I think, about. So it used to be there was a time where playing as a hybrid was one of the most difficult things to do in the game. We're getting to a point where it's getting easier and easier to do that. That's good. We might see more hybrids in the game because it opens up a whole new wing or a whole new
Aspect of the game.
aspect of the game. Absolutely. But if you wanted to be a hybrid previously, you could run Pelinels, but you could also just put Clever Alchemist and New Moon on, or Clever Alchemist and whatever damage buffs that, or damage weapon armor sets that buff both weapon damage and spell damage simultaneously, and there you go. And another thing I noticed, because I was doing this on Hulk Smash, running Clever Alchemist and running New Moon together, my weapon damage, I could buff my weapon damage up and be good 7k weapon damage, and my vigor ticks heal off or scale off of my weapon damage, and so I had great healing coming in, but I could also put a magic attack ability on my bar, and 6-7k weapon damage is kind of the norm, gets it done, but 6 or 7k spell damage and you're absolutely nuking people. And so I noticed that when I was running 6 or 7k weapon or spell damage, the tooltips on some of my magic abilities on my Stam DK were hitting super hard. And with the changes to CP and stuff, that's even more so the case now. So that's kind of interesting. So I'm interested to see what they do with that, because I'm a fan of hybrids and that opening up of new options and play styles. So looking forward to it.
Are you allowed to speak on this one, Nevis?
Well, excuse me, I have to clear my throat. Well, I definitely agree with Grim on Pelinels. Also, in regards to your lore explanation earlier, definitely for sure, it's like one of the coolest Elder Scrolls lores out there. Do you know he actually killed, tried to kill all the Khajiits because he thought they were elves?
Yeah, dude. When I was listening to them recounting the story, I was like, bro, this guy's like Hitler, dude. He was going after all the Bosmer, the Dunmer, the Altmer,
yeah, I mean,
all
he was
elves.
mad.
Yeah, and then as you just said, he even killed a bunch of Khajiit by accident, and he was like, "Oh, my bad. I thought y'all were Altmer, dude. Sorry." And then he just went on his way. Good lord, man, so scary.
But yeah, going back to the set stuff, I think it's become kind of redundant. I mean, do you guys see the new the preview of the new sets coming out tomorrow? A lot of them basically have hybrid stat, or rather combined stats. Like, we're kind of, as a result of item set standardization that started a couple of years ago, we're now seeing item sets with values like offensive penetration, no more spell penetration, no more physical penetration. We're seeing weapon and spell damage, not just weapon damage, right? So I think in that regard, Pelinels is kind of redundant now, and I'm definitely excited to see where they're going to go with this. And speaking of hybrid builds, I also would love to see more hybrid builds in the game. I think the last hybrid build I really loved, I don't know if you guys remember him, Gothbeard. He made like a Pelinel werewolf build, which was really nice back in the time.
Yeah. I'm starting a new thing, a new push, and it's hashtag do you even off meta, bro? And so you need to help me push this, because we see a lot of people that are kind of really humping the meta, and they're out there wearing the most strongest meta, whatever it is, using the most meta rotation in PvP. That's all I'm talking, PvP. But then you see guys like Malcolm, who is doing a Bobo Nightblade and playing it kind of like a brawler. He's using Cloak occasionally, but not to gank at all. It's not a gank build. And he's out there just weaving in and out of his 1vx and putting people away. And I'm like, that's a thing of beauty. That's artwork right there, because to play off meta is difficult. You have so many people that are trying to flex, and I can do this and I can do that, or nobody can kill me. And it's like, you're all wearing the same stuff. You're all wearing the meta most same stuff, and you're running the same rotations or whatever. If you really want to impress me, play off meta. put some weird stuff on your character and go out there and 1vx or go do that stuff. So hashtag do you even off meta, bro?
Yeah, Grim,
Oh
when you were
man.
telling me about Malcolm's Bobo Nightblade, I was
Mhm.
like, okay, so I went to check it out, and dude, I almost shed a tear watching it, like freaking like Beethoven's like symphony and stuff. Oh,
Yes.
dude, it was so good. It reminded me of like Grim Hollow and Baker of Cakes, just like taking
Yes.
down a group of people and stuff on their Nightblade. It was actually
More
really
of
awesome.
that. I want to see more of that. If you're really good at this game, you're really good at PvP or whatever, and you really want to flex, play off meta. Let's see some crazy off meta type builds and different type things. Don't do what everyone else is doing. Do something different. And that's hard. That is hard. So that's all I got to say about that. Sorry.
So that was kind of it on the combat preview. But so Nephis, you said that you would like hybrids to be more of a thing. Was that mostly for PvP?
Oh, both.
Okay, so I don't. I can see hybrids being something for PvP. I feel like it makes more sense there, but I don't see it at all becoming a thing in PvE because what kind of, we'll say your DPS, right? Your hybrid DPS. What do
Mm.
you expect your tooltip, or not your tooltip? What should you expect your parse to be? Because I feel like if you're, not I feel like if you're running we'll say you know a stamina DPS and a magicka DPS, right? You're hitting 100k. If you're half of that, right?
Hmm.
If you're a hybrid user, I don't think in any way, shape, or form you should be achieving 100k DPS when you're split down the middle. So like, how would you even quantify? How would you even quantify that? Go ahead. No,
Uh,
that was it. Yep.
oh, okay. Well, there's two aspects to this. When we're talking about PV, like which aspect of PV are we talking about? I guess is the first aspect. Is it end game? Is it trying to be as optimal as possible, or do you just want to be viable? I think in terms of viability, um, hybridization would be nice. In terms of optimization, we already kind of see examples of that already. For example, Vatishran Hollow score runners on Stam DPS, they pre-buff Destro ultimates. They use destruction staffs. That's just kind of one little example of what I would like to see in PV. Like, because in the end, like whether you're Stam or Mag, it's to me it's the same. Blue bar or green bar. So to see people to see more people think outside the box, or even like try out different skills to gain an advantage, or potentially even more damage, would be nice to see. In terms of, should that happen because you're splitting down the middle, I guess that's kind of up to the devs. But yeah, I think there's valid points to this from both sides.
Yeah, and I know for me, whenever we've brought up hybrids on the podcast, my question is always well, like, what constitutes a hybrid, right? Are you doing physical damage, but then your heals are magicka based, or, is
Mm.
it the other way around, or, what exactly is there a certain distinction of what like, what would you say is the definitive point of, hey, you're a hybrid? Congratulations.
You're using something that isn't typical to what your spec should be doing, I guess. Like a stamina Templar using destruction staff on a raid dummy is something people don't think about. We've seen that actually, and they get pretty high parses, 80k, 90k, stuff like that.
Especially with the introduction of the Vatishran staff on the back bar. I see a lot of stamina players. I've seen Stam Crows running around with Vat staff on their back bar.
Yeah, and I saw like a PvP I know he used a wrestle staff on his stamina character for PvP. It's stuff like that that makes me go like, oh, this is pretty cool. A lot of people think I don't like that stuff because like people know me as like an end game raider, and people I have this caricature of like people like that, or me, as, oh, I hate anything that's not meta or whatever. or I don't want you to think outside the box. You gotta follow one build. But I think that's pretty cool. And I would like to see more of it.
Nice. Yeah, and for the record, I'm not hating on hybrids. I'm just asking questions.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think you're hating on hybrids. I think you have pretty valid questions, personally.
Oh, you heard it there. Endorsed by Nephis. IC Fire Gaming.
We're good. We're good. That's all we needed today. Thanks.
Bye.
See you guys next week. I got what we needed. So yeah, that covers it for the combat preview. You could hand over the questions, Grim.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of content creators on here, right? There's going to be a lot of things here. We're going to bounce around a little bit. Prepare yourselves. Off air, we were talking about you are a member of the class
That's representing the program.
class representative program, and we have a lot of other content creators that are like, what is that even? Like, we know about it, but it's like this very Willy Wonka, you got a golden ticket in the mail thing, and how did that happen, and what is it exactly, and what goes on behind those doors. And so anyways, what can you tell us about the class rep program? Clear the air, or fill us in on what the class rep program is like, and whatever you can tell us.
Okay, sure. I guess I'll start from the beginning. There are two generations of class representatives, and the first generation, I'm not in the first. The first generation started on the forums when I believe it was Gina, the community, one of the community managers, and they were basically interested in forming this program where a select group of players who are experienced in the game or knowledgeable at the game can forward, but also, I guess, filter feedback, because you can't really forward all feedback. That's too overwhelming. You can't really take every forum post and be like, okay, this is what they want you to do, or so I thought. But the first generation was like basically chosen, I think, kind of based on popularity, if I recall correctly, on the forums. And after by 2019, there was one scandal with the whole one of the class reps leaked, under NDA leaked the next patch notes. That was interesting.
Oh
And
jeez.
oh yeah, and I think publicly, at least from my perspective at the time, it got really quiet. I mean, that's and before that, speaking of the NDA, I think they had a lot of back and forth in the early days of the program between the players and the devs, or at least through the class reps, right? Like, they're the messengers. And then they enacted an NDA. And this was kind of controversial at the time because people were like, well, now they can't really say anything. They can't communicate anymore with us, right? To some point, that is true. And I'll kind of touch on, I guess, why the NDA is necessary here in a bit. But after that, they got a little quiet. Then it came down to 5 players being left out of the original 10. And then they were looking for 5 more 2 years ago. And they didn't do it via the forums. They actually did it through the website. Like, you could email them or apply. Fill out this application and apply to be a class rep. Like, tell us your experiences in the game. What can you bring to the table? How much knowledge do you have in the game? And I was one of probably hundreds, potentially thousands that applied, and I got in with 4 of the other new class reps. So the second generation, it's Cab, who's a primarily console player, which was great to see. CC, Reborn Zombie, and Glorious. I think you guys know Glorious. PvPer.
How many of them are content creators?
Well, I'd say, so it's me. Okay, so Outcast. Well, it's just me and Outcast at the moment, creating content regularly. Fear Turbo used to be an ESO content creator. Now he's not really making content for ESO anymore, but he's still playing ESO. He actually raised with me on my raid team. And Maisel puts out occasional videos on what he thinks ESO can improve on. That's pretty much it. Everybody else are not content creators, I guess, by that definition.
Gotcha. Sorry.
Right. No, go on. No, it's fine. But yeah, I got in, and going back to the NDA, of course, I had to sign an NDA. I can't really, like I said, off air. I can't really tell you guys what they tell us unless they give me permission. There are times when players need clarification on certain things, and I'll go to them and ask, "Hey, what's going on here?" And they'll be like, "Oh, this is what's going on." I'm like, can I tell them? It'll either be yes or no, and from that point on, I can relay it to the players. But yeah, going on the topic of like, I guess, the obscurity or the mysteriousness of the program, it's yeah, I guess the NDA has a lot to do with that, or rather, how much we can relay from the devs. A lot of people think the Classroom program, I think it's kind of a misnomer at this point as well. It's more of a combat representative program, because it's not, the original iteration was focused on, hey, represent your class you main. So there was a rep for Stam Sort, there was a rep for Max Sort, there was a rep for stuff like that. But now it's not like that anymore, because everyone on the program knows pretty much every class and is knowledgeable about the game. But going back to the what is it? Oh my god, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, so the NDA. So there's it kind of definitely did kill the public image of the class reps, in that a lot of people think it's dead. It's not. It's not there anymore. Or that it's useless. There's a lot of theories from players I see where they're using the class rep program as like a scapegoat thing, like we're the lightning rod, right? That players can blame or will go to when there's issues. I mean, there are definitely times where
Are you guys taking blame, like, so when there's imbalance in the game or bugs or things like that, are people actually directing negativity towards the class reps, like you're not doing your job?
up to about a year ago, I think a fair amount of people were. And of course, it's not how it works. Like, we're not programmers, we're not developers, we don't work for ZOS, we don't get paid, right? It's kind of a voluntary thing. But I understand the misconception, right? Because like the name itself, like, oh wow, StamDK is so bad. Who's a StamDK rep? Right? And then no one says anything because it's not how it works, right? And we try to, well, at least I try to disseminate the information about class reps a little bit. Like, hey, it still exists. I think Gina even had to clarify on the forums, like, hey, we're still having meetings, in regards to combat and combat feedback from players. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there was, there were people blaming us for some time for various things.
There has to be somebody that is protecting StamDKs, though. Come on. Come on. Who's not letting the stamina whip happen?
Oh my god, I can talk about that for hours too. My goodness. Yeah, Stone Giant is terrible. Oh my god, I'm gonna make a video about it too, bro. It's the worst skill in the game. It really is. It's just terrible.
I tried to make it work in a my Hulk Smash build too, and it's just so clunky. Like, it's cool that the first initiating hit is an AoE. That's fine, but then after that, you're chucking a rock, and if they're at range, there's no way to get stamina back if you're using a two-hander, and so I'm just expending stamina, and so it's not very friendly of a thing. Yeah.
I mean, the history of that skill is really cursed. But we can talk more about it later. But I'll finish summarizing class rep thing. So now there's still 10 class reps, the same class reps since 2 years ago. It's been 2 years, my goodness. I actually just checked the calendar. I'm like, wow, it's been 2 years already. And what we do now is, we still forward feedback from players. If there are, things that, like exploits, we have, we have to obviously let, the devs know. Bug reports, stuff like, or not bug reports, but like, game breaking bugs, stuff like that. We talk about with them. We talk about, combat, pretty much. We don't really talk about anything else, just combat. And maybe a couple other things, but yeah, combat. as to, and I kind of talked about it, like people have theories, like, is it effective? Do you guys even do anything, or what's going on? Can you say anything? It's just always a scapegoat program, whatever. Again, the NDA makes it hard, and it's frustrating for me as a player because, and also a content creator, because in recent, like since the time I joined the program, I never did it either, so I don't know why people think I did it in the past all the time. But people think just because I don't shit on the game constantly that just, like I'm being paid or paid off, or like I'm on the teat of Zos, right?
He's a shill.
Yeah, the shill. Yeah, that's what some people jokingly call me, or seriously call me. And it's not. It's frustrating because it's not like that. So, as a player outside, as a player who was outside the program, I just had no idea about a lot of things. And it's also the human factor. Like when you talk to these, that they're not nameless names anymore. They're they're people, right? When you talk to people, you're like, oh, you're a person too. And with that factor, and the fact that I learned a lot about the how the game functions, and the complexity of the issues. Like the biggest example, PvP lag. Why haven't they fixed lag? Why haven't they added servers or new servers to fix lag, right? It's frustrating for me because I can't relay this information I know, or relay the experience I've had, because of the NDA to players, to make them understand, hey, this is what's going on. So that's really the only negative thing for me with the program. But as I say, the show must go on, so I kind of stick with it, bear through it. But yeah, it would be lovely if a lot of players could understand certain things, or even get to talk to the devs, really.
Yeah,
but that's of course. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I tried to contact Gina just to see if we could set something up like that. Not to, I told her, hey, we're not trying to put this individual on the spot, or you, if it was her. We'd even provide the questions that we would be asking in advance, so that way you could prepare the best possible answer, because some of them might be difficult because of NDAs and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get a response. So
well, maybe I'll forward this video and be like, hey, you gotta reply to
yeah. Hi Gina, how are you?
Gina.
We'd love to have you on the show.
But yeah, the NDA. So yeah, it's frustrating for me because it's hard for me. And also, but at the same time, the NDA is good, because I will say this, because a lot of things I feel like I kind of referred to it earlier, when the patch notes were leaked by that one class rep who shall not be named, obviously got kicked out of the program, broke the NDA. People flipped out. Yeah, people flipped out because of leaked patch notes. They didn't like the changes. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like completely finished. So when the things we're discussing, behind the doors under the NDA, if I feel like if some of that, came to light, it's like people would still flip out. So I think there's a good reason for it.
Do you feel like you're making an impact though when you're? I mean, are you able to say that you feel like there's definitely something there? There's information being exchanged and thoughts being exchanged, and then you see the fruits of those labors. Do you think?
Yeah, I think there's impact. I wouldn't say it's like, game shattering impact. I'd say it's sort of like soft, is how I would describe it.
Plant a seed.
Because we're not really there to like tell them what to do, right? That's not it. A lot of people think that's what we're there to do, or have this misunderstanding that just because we forward the feedback from players, they have to take it. It's up to them if they want to take it or not, ultimately, as the game's owners or developers. But yeah, I mean, definitely the classroom program I can say has made impact over its time and history,
Okay.
even before I was in it. I think for sure.
Okay. That's
Would it
interesting. Go
would
ahead,
it
Nicey.
I was gonna just say, would it be too much to ask for like some examples in terms of what for the 2 years that you said that you've been there? Would it be too much to ask for examples on, since you've been there, what are some of those improvements that have happened, like that the class rep system has had an impact on? Would that be too much?
I'm not sure.
Okay, then
I know.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Then.
I also. Oh, I don't know if I can say that either. But even before I was there, I'm aware of significant changes as well. So even before I was there, it had impact. It has impact.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it for the classroom program for anyone listening who was interested in the history of it and what it exactly is. And, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I know Grim and I, I think we mentioned it a few times on the podcast, but we're always joking, but kind of not joking at the same time. We'd always like, um, we'd like a direct line to the president,
Yeah.
and Nephis has that line.
Yeah. It's
Well,
not it's not that we need to pick the phone up all the time with every little thing, but at least once or twice a year we could say, "Hey, here's 5 things." And if there were in fact something that's ultra game breaking that we come across, we could call and say, "Mr. President, we have a problem." You know.
well, yeah. Like I said, we're kind of basically the messengers. So if you have anything like that, you can, let me know anytime, or let any of the other class reps know anytime. And
No, you're our guy. You're our guy.
oh, okay. Well, I mean, there's others, but they'll forward the feedback, or let them know about these issues you described.
That's awesome. So with the class rep program, that's pretty cool. You signed an NDA, you have access to upcoming information. So I have faith that as long as you're happy and you're marching forward with the game, they're making moves behind the scenes that are in the best interests of the PvP community. And so that makes me happy, I guess. Let's see. So let's talk about the community that you created through Discord, and let's talk about your YouTube and Twitch and all that. Can you tell us where everyone can find you and what you have, what you've been building on Discord?
Oh, yeah, people can find me on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and of course Discord. In regards to the Discord, ESOU or ESO University, it started out as like my personal server as a content creator, right? As a beginning content creator, had maybe like a few hundred, and at most 1,000 at one point people in it. And then I had this idea because at the time, and I think still to this day, but in a less severe degree, at the time, ESO as a community was going through what I would describe as not a very good phase. It's kind of an ugly phase. It was kind of a reflection of our reality at the time. I think it was about 3 years ago, where everything is so divisive. People like to really label each other a lot. I mean, we do it too, right? To a degree, like, oh, he's an endgame reader. Oh, he's an endgame PvPer. Oh, he's a 1vxer, or oh, he's a role player. Or, she only likes to questers, and it kind of reached this boiling point every day because I immerse myself in this game. I've been playing this game since beta. I've been playing this game for more than 7 years at this point, and I've noticed this trend where people just you know label each other, and in an ironic twist, even the people who don't like the so-called toxic elitists became toxic, right? And I had this idea where, well, why is it like this? Because it perturbed me at the time when I actually got on Twitter because Outcast recommended me, hey, you should get Twitter. And I don't know if I should regret it or not, but I got on Twitter and there's all these ESO players and content creators, you know, with the hashtag. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Hashtag ESO fam. There's all these people talking about, oh, ESO has the greatest community, not the least toxic community. We're the ESO fam, but actions, speak more volumes than words. And even some of those content creators, I would say, small or big, we're guilty of labeling people and kind of making these divisions where honestly it's silly. It's a game. You're supposed to have fun, and it's not. I don't think it should be a reflection of our very divisive reality where people kind of tear each other apart for differences that ultimately don't matter, whether it's your creed, your race, religion, sexual orientation, even like stuff like that.
Politics. Yep.
Right. And now we do it in game over what? Who's what? Like a PvE? Are you? Oh, what kind of PvE are you? Oh, are they doing overlay? Oh, what kind of PvE are you? Oh, I'm a raider. Oh, you're toxic. Oh, you suck. Stuff like that, right? I mean, we've all used this too, right? Like, what are they doing? Like role playing over there? Like we use, the existence of role playing or the community of role players as an insult, right? And I had a lot of issues with this, and I was like, okay, well, here's the idea. Why don't I make this more of a community server where we can demonstrate that this idea or this notion that primarily endgame players are not toxic. In fact, this whole concept of us or perception of us being toxic is more based on the toxic people you meet along the way to endgame rather than the people at endgame. And it's the same case for I'm also talking about this for PvP too, because a lot of people tend to think, especially PvEers who go to Cyrodiil during mid-year, that all PvPers are toxic, and that's not the case. I mean, all the endgame PvPers I've met, they're so helpful. They teach you how to duel. They teach you how they even give you their builds that they keep to themselves. I mean, to an extent, I think endgame PvPers are almost nicer than endgame PvEers, but don't tell them I said that. But I just want to demonstrate that, hey, we're not evil, we're not bad. We want to share everything with you. We want to share this knowledge because Discord was a game changer for ESO. It really has been. Because before Discord, everybody was on their own TeamSpeak servers. We were divided not by category, but we were divided by like platform and server. I would have never thought in 2015, 16 to talk to a player from PCEU or a console player, or talk to other content creators from different servers or platforms, or even anyone really that outside of my own group of friends or little community of guilds, right? And Discord changed a lot of that. I think people kind of have forgotten or underestimated that. But yeah, I made this Discord, ESOU, to basically just teach people, share knowledge. There's nothing we're holding back, whether you're interested in PvPing or you want to get into raiding. Nothing is being held back. Like we don't gate it behind oh, you got to pay us gold or money for us to teach you or just give you advice. We don't really gate it behind silly divisions like, oh, you have to be a PvPer for me to give you tips about PvP, stuff like that. And that's really the essence of it. And as a community, it's definitely grown astronomically because we help players from everywhere, Xbox, PlayStation, PC. We expanded our list of professors, and professors are basically these endgame players or players who have a lot of experience and time in their own respective specialties or fields, like whether it's PvE or fashion, or even in the case of Jhart Ellis, economy, in-game economy. So we've expanded from PvE to PvP, and then from that point on, we started teaching about leadership there's a channel called Leadership in there about guild management, community management, how to organize raids, what do you do when someone is acting up in your group, economy, and we eventually brought in more add-on developers. These are also this is also a segment of the community that never gets attention. Like, where do our add-ons come from? If people just kind of take it for granted, like they just kind of download it from Minion or ESOUI.com. They're like, okay, here's my add-on, here's my mini map, but they don't really think about the people who make these add-ons, because they're also players themselves. And I brought in these add-on developers. We made an add-ons channel where we offered to give tips or teach people how to make add-ons, right? And we even brought in after that we brought in more add-on developers, and we made our own category for requesting add-ons, forwarding bugs for add-ons. And then after that, I think we made the class reps category where you could forward feedback to the devs. Yeah, it's become a pretty big server, and it's also where I organize the Raid Lead program now on both Xbox and PC, where I basically try to teach people how to Raid Lead, because I think that's probably the penultimate, I guess, representation of ESOU. We're teaching you how to fish for yourself, really. Although, that's pretty much it. But yeah, that's ESOU, and anyone can join, doesn't matter. And it's gone from 1,000 members in the past year to 14,600 members now. We're approaching the 15,000 mark, and pretty exciting.
Wow.
We're also for the past week and a half, I've been staying awake from about noon until 8 a.m. the next morning, working on the ESOU, the second version of the ESOU website, where we have these build pages and everything that make it easier for people to share builds or stuff like that. Basically lays the foundations for kind of a UESP kind of thing, hopefully in the far future. And I mean, there's a lot of work in there. And people are free to come and go as they please.
We'll have a link to that in the descriptions for anyone that's interested, because it sounds wonderful. Like, it covers every aspect of the game and tries to do it in a non-toxic fashion. That you are having when we're talking about toxicity, everybody needs to understand what that is. It's not just people in the game talking. We're talking about an age range of people in the world that have been cooped up for the last year or two, and their social they just don't understand how to properly socialize with other people, or they don't care, and they think that they can talk to another person online because there's no repercussions any way they want. And so the best you can do in those situations with the toxic people is trying to educate them as best you can, and at some point you just got to cut the cord and get away from them. So, and as you find those super toxic people in the game, you just need to block them. Make use of your blocking, make use of that in the game, and just don't associate, don't be around, don't talk to those people. And eventually they'll find that they're swimming in a much smaller pool because nobody likes to be around them, and ooh, they're so cool, they killed 20 people or they killed 50 people, and but nobody likes to be around them because they're just ultra toxic. They never have anything good to say, positive to say. And so that's an extreme uphill battle. And if you're trying to control an environment and you have got 14,000 people and it's a helpful environment, you're winning. 14,000 people and limited toxicity and all help, that's a great home. So high-fiving you in the air right now. So
thanks for that. It's been go on.
Tell us about Twitch.
Twitch. So I started seriously making content 2 years ago. And there's a lot of moving pieces in regards to that. Life, my plans, stuff like that, engagement, which didn't work out. But I was like, so we actually kind of touched on toxicity a little bit here, and I'm not denying I used to be toxic before like the first year of ESO, or like I came from a very different environment compared to ESO. I came from like MOBAs,
Mhm.
like I think Icy said League of Legends. He used to play League of Legends.
Dude.
But for me, it was Dota, and I was seeking some sort of like permanence, like a home, kind of like where I can just settle down. And it's been it's been a long journey. I kind of think I changed as a person. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. Like ask myself every day, do I am I good? Am I like a good enough person? And I think the answer is pretty much no every day.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with
there's a
raising
lot.
the bar. Raise the bar every day. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But yeah, leading up to content creating 2 years ago, I didn't really make videos for the general audience, right? Like I try to do now, like I'm starting to do now. I just made videos for my guildies. Really, it started like that. Like how do you parse 30k on the Bloodspawn? I don't know if you remember parsing on the Bloodspawn gargoyle in Swindle Clutch. But it started out like that, and I moved away from PvP after a series of unfortunate events. A good friend died, and he wanted to get into raiding. So I was like, in the end, so that's part of the reason why I got into raiding. And then for a while after that, I just did endgame raiding, score pushing. And I started making more videos about that and sharing, what I do during those raids with people. And then at a certain point, I ended up raid leading my own team, and that kind of fell to pieces because one of my raiders died. Like, not in the raid, but in real life. And it was like it wasn't a very good one. It was a suicide, and it made me, because, and as a raid lead, it's like it kind of made me think to myself like what kind of person are you if this person doesn't even approach you about these kind of, and it really destroyed my just my entire persona at the time, really. So I stopped raid leading. I stopped kind of seriously raiding for a long while, and then I watched this video. Actually, Deltia, he was quitting ESO, and I was, oh man, how much worse can it get? Deltia's quitting ESO. But in that video, he said something, and it stuck with me. He said, if you want to try, creating content, just try it for a year. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll try it for a year. And I tried it for a year, and YouTube grew from like maybe 1,000 subs to 10,000, 15,000. And I was like, oh, I can maybe pull this off. I can maybe pull this off. And then I went to Twitch, and it took me about almost a year, and I got Twitch partner. And then that's basically where my streaming took off. After I got Twitch partner, I started doing more and more ESO. I started teaching on streams. I started streaming more raids. I started streaming PvP. I got to meet a lot of cool people that way. I somehow, I don't know why they let me in. I somehow got into the ESO stream team. And it's just been kind of snowballing since then. Getting hosted by Bethesda 3 times. I mean, it's pretty cool. And now I'm doing the World Plays ESO event on the 22nd, showcasing guilds in ESO, and that's it feels like it's kind of like it's come back in a circle in a good way. So that's the origin of my Twitch and why I became, or how I became a content creator. That's
Hey, I'd like to put you in contact with a friend of ours. He's another content creator named Fragman Saul. And Fragman would like to do the same way Twitch is supported by ESO. Frag would like to get the same type of support on the YouTube side of things. And so he's putting a list together of content creators that stream on YouTube exclusively. And he himself does that. And maybe you can help with that process. But I want to get you guys in contact with each other. He's super, super nice, very cool guy. So
Yeah, I think I watched a bit of the podcast you did with him. I think last week.
yeah,
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 yeah. He's been
it
fun
was
to run
nice.
around with. Yeah. So Twitch versus YouTube, things like that. Obviously, the interaction over on Twitch and the support, it makes sense to stream over there. And then you use your YouTube to kind of grow your Twitch awareness, because when you're not streaming over on Twitch, you kind of fall off, right? Of relevancy, right? It's whereas YouTube, anybody can find you 24/7 over here. It's just you don't get the all the cool bells and whistles on YouTube that you do on Twitch. So
Yeah,
um,
it's a hard balance for sure, right?
yeah,
Between streaming on Twitch and making videos for YouTube, and then on top of that, a website and a Discord to manage. Yeah, it's a lot.
Do you
yeah,
do everything yourself for the most part, or do you have a team?
The website development is led by Anton Sean. He approached me with his uh, like idea for the website, and we've been pretty much kind of been working together ever since. And that's pretty much it. He's pretty much the only person left at this point developing the website. So that's part of why it's been a slow snail pace. But we're really excited to finally bring the next update to the website. In terms of content, yeah, I pretty much do everything from video editing. I've started to ask people to send me their, if they want to share like their builds, and I'll post them on YouTube. Um, I haven't posted any of these yet because I'm, planning to do like completely like reworked me like for the YouTube channel and also for the website. So those two will work together. For thumbnails, I ask a friend of mine to do it. Um, and of course, there's some monetary compensation for some of all this. And yeah, that's. But yeah, for the video editing and everything else, yeah, I pretty much handle everything by myself.
Nice, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah. There's a little bit work, a little bit of work required, right? Like Icy just released a video and it was really well done, a step up in production for him, and the amount of work that goes into just doing the one video, let alone the balancing act that you're doing. You're juggling multiple things, so it's
Yeah,
interesting. How
Yeah.
can Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I know for me personally, like when I do the build videos, I guess I kind of got the idea from Kev do it during with the podcast with him, how scripting out the whole video from the beginning to the end. It really, I kind of like. There obviously there's a whole editing aspect to it as well, but I also like the scripting part of it, so you can really fine tune everything that you're gonna say, and it really makes it cuts down on the editing a lot because I don't have to, s- I guess,
like,
make unnecessary cuts that would I otherwise would have,
right.
because everything else is all part of the plan and flows perfectly, and then now it's just tailoring the images and overlays to support, to give like a visual representation to what I'm saying.
Mm.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
regards to build videos, that the new ones I'll be doing from now on, I'm planning to do a build video for everything, like PvP classes, PvE, Overland, solo, dungeon builds, trial DP, everything. It's a lot of work, and I looked at the trend of ESO content for at least YouTube videos, and I feel like for sure these days people have very short attention spans or won't stick through the traditional, like the old style of ESO videos where I talk for 50 minutes straight about, hey, these are my stats, let me explain it here, this is my consumables, let me explain my thoughts on that, stuff like that. And I think my new my new video format's basically me just giving the basics and linking like the web page guide in the description below for like anyone actually interested in the nitty-gritty details, and the rest of the video is gameplay. And that saved me a lot of time as well, for sure, because I don't
like
have to talk
that.
as much. Yeah.
I might have to do something like that too. Although the coach in me, I hate, I always will do a build video and then I'll get somebody that says in the comments, skip forward to 2 minutes if you want the build or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
that'll be the very first person that leaves a comment, this build sucks or doesn't work. Well, guess what, my guy? It sucks or doesn't work. That's because you didn't listen to the how or why, you know, how to use the build or what the purpose of the build is or what the rotation is, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about it. They instant gratification. That's the day and age we live in. Everyone wants instant gratification, and a lot of people, toxicity levels high. They feel like they can talk to people however they want. And there's no repercussions. So,
Right.
But I don't know. I'm a little torn between that. I think I'll probably stay with my current format and I'll just timestamp it. And if you don't like the descriptions or whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh man, YouTube comments are the worst. They
Yeah,
really are. And you know, that's another reason why I've been, you know, posting a meme every day. Maybe people are just unhappy. Maybe, you know, maybe, just make them laugh. Maybe, who knows? But
yeah, I love
yeah.
that too. Talking about your memes, we were talking off air about this too. Nothing, you know, it was with your position and stuff like that. And some of these memes are bullseyes, 100% bullseyes. And I see
Yeah.
this and I laugh so hard because I'm like, yes, that right there. And I asked you, do you ever get an email or a text or something that says, hey, could you kind of cool it a little bit on the memes, you know? and you answered no. I never get that, you know. So not yet anyways, right? So
Yeah. Well, I think there's a difference between memeing and absolutely, you know, taking a
Like,
dump on
y-
something, right?
yeah, like negative criticism, that type of thing.
Yes.
yeah. For me, we've had a couple people before. We want to try and keep this lighthearted and stuff like that. And it's hard to keep things lighthearted when you're talking about, like, if the current state of the game or performance or whatever it is that you're talking about is negative, right? It's not a positive situation. And so it's, how do you stay in a positive mindset while talking about something that is very annoying, you know, or very negative? And so that's a tough balancing act for sure. But I think everybody needs to know that we're coming from a place of caring and loving. Like, we honestly
Oh
love
yeah.
this. We love this game.
Yeah.
We want it to work properly. And that's why we want to talk about, have all those hard conversations and talk about all those difficult topics, is because we do love the game so much, and we just want them resolved. So, but I love the meme game. You've got the strongest meme game in ESO.
Well, yeah, I just basically, people actually just send me their memes, the memes they find, I guess. Sometimes I find them, and sometimes I make them. I think 1 in every 6 or 5, I make a meme. I just kind of think about what's relevant, or rather, like what would, if I see a meme and I like vibe with it, or you know, it's relevant to me. I hope it's relevant to the people watching or people seeing the memes as well.
Yeah, you're hitting a home run, especially, you know, that when other content creators are laughing and they're saying 100%, like, you just hit a home run here. So, yeah.
Dude, I did a Hitler reacts to one of my friends because she refuses to play Magica and she only plays Stamsork. So I did a Hitler reacts to that, and you know, it was funny for all of us in the group in like our small little circle, but um yeah, maybe I'll send it to you and maybe you'll get a laugh because you know
Okay.
the concepts are still there and everything. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So we only have about 4 minutes left. How can everyone find you? And these will be linked in the descriptions below. But how can everybody find you, and what's the best thing that they could do to help you out?
They can find me, as I said before, on Twitter. If you want to follow on Twitter, go for it. I do a lot of giveaways on Twitter. If you're interested in like ESO, like a pink torch bug, or Blackwood codes or whatever. Instagram, I just kind of started up. That's not really a big deal. ESO-U.com. That's gonna be the website for Twitch, NephusQS for YouTube. NephusQS. And if you want to subscribe, that's great. If not, it's okay. That's
Yeah,
pretty
I
much
think
it.
everybody should go over. I mean, almost everybody in this game should be looking for a non-toxic environment where they can ask the questions, even if they think they're dumb questions. Somebody has an answer, right? I don't think there's really such a thing. Here's your, you've heard this before, but there's no such thing as a dumb question, just dumb answers. So,
Mm,
yeah. So if they can come to a place where it's non-judgmental zone and ask any of the questions about anything in game and get an answer for it, that's where you need to be. So,
thank you.
yeah. I'm high-fiving you.
Thank you for the info. I appreciate you.
Fight the good fight. What do you got, Icy?
So my buddy Jay, before we do a closeout, he messaged me during the recording here to just give me a little or a summary for the Pelinal lore that I was talking about earlier. So I'll just read what he said. Perennial Whitestrake was a champion of Alessia and was gifted weapons and armor by the 8 divines. During the Alessian Rebellion, he developed homicidal tendencies and killed pretty much every Ayleid he saw and pretty much took the White Gold Tower from the Ayleids single-handedly. His massacre happened during the middle of the year, so Mid-Year Mayhem is a reference to Perennial's madness, and one of his homicidal episodes took place in Sunspire, and Al-Kosh himself had to stop it. The time wound Navitas is trying to open is the time wound left behind by Al-Kosh when he stopped the one-man God-blessed killing machine. And of course, if you were an elf and you saw this man, you were dead. So, yeah, fun fact: Mid-Year Mayhem is a reference to Perennial Whitestrake himself. And
Boom. Knowledge
boom,
bomb dropped.
yeah. So we'll let everybody sleep on that. And with that said, we'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
You're going to say, bye-bye, Argonians.
Bye bye, Rogonian.